Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Sports Talk with Eddie, presented by Our Time Press in a beautiful, beautiful Brooklyn day here in the neighborhood. Very beautiful day today. We got a lot to pack in today. We got some football news. We'll go over the final cuts as far as what I think the Yankees and the Mets will automatically initially do within the trading deadline as the trade deadline approaches, and go over a little bit of some basketball as far as how do we feel about the Knicks' current team right now as they go into the 2025-2026 season. So definitely a lot to unpack. But before we get into all of that, I want to acknowledge it's been a very sad week as far as celebrity goes. Malcolm Jamal Warner, as we all know from the Cosby Show, sadly lost his life in Costa Rica. Very sad story to hear about his passing. You know, from the reports that I've read, he was in the midst of swimming, and he was with his daughter at the time, his 8-year-old daughter, and gladly they were able to save her. But I guess with the current that the water had, it was too late for responders to come in and save him. So definitely sad. Also, one of the rock legends, Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne passed away. I'm not really much of a rock guy, but being a big pro wrestling fan outside of other sports, seeing Ozzy Osbourne's work with WWE in particular, I got to know Ozzy Osbourne, got to listen to a few of his music every now and then, especially when I play basketball. I mean, you have your good old rap music in the 90s, I'm still stuck with M and Fab and a little bit of Nas and KRS-One. But if you really want to get pumped and stoked up, man, Ozzy's the way to go. Ozzy's definitely the way to go with that. And another loss within the past couple of hours was the loss of pro wrestling legend Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan passed away today. Um, the report was cardiac arrest, and essentially before that, there was even reports about his health being on the decline. And during the cardiac arrest, he was rushed to the hospital, and unfortunately, his life was not able to be saved. Um, I know within the last couple of years or so, with the video that came out with Hulk Hogan's derogatory remarks, it kind of rubbed people the wrong way. It definitely rubbed me the wrong way. But as far as what he meant to pro wrestling, as far as catapulting and galvanizing WWE in a global market to where it's at today, Hulk Hogan definitely played um, dividends to that. And a lot of people could arguably say that he's probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, pro wrestler of all time. So definitely sad and definitely shocking to have someone of that caliber just breaking news all over the place. Honestly, I didn't even know. I was at my day job, and my wife reached out to me, and she let me know the news. And then my sister, she reached out to me, and I'm like, wait a minute, okay, because sometimes you just can't believe right off the back with what social media posts is up there. That's why in last week's episode we got some breaking news about Damian Lillard from my source, Julian. So I wanted to make sure that we had the right source before we initially put it out here for everybody to talk about. So definitely unfortunate with these celebrities just passing away. So on behalf of myself and everybody at Our Time Press, we want to send our deepest condolences to the respective families of Malcolm Jamal Warner, Ozzy Osbourne, and the immortal Hulk Hogan. Definitely stunning and sad news in the celebrity world and sports world at that. So with that, we're gonna flip the page and we're gonna get into some football. Some Jets news came out today, and as you can see my expression, I wasn't too thrilled about it because it just seems like when you're a Jet fan, this is pretty much what you go through. So there were several reports indicating that Jets quarterback Justin Fields was carted off the field at camp today in what is being described as a dislocated toe. Now, initially, when you hear an injury and someone leaving in the cart, it's bad. It's the worst news you could have. And being a Jet fan, it always seems like it's worst news. Again, we all know about the Jets and the franchise, how discombobulated it seems. They haven't made the playoffs since 2010, which is the longest active streak in all pro sports as far as not making a playoff uh, appearance. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the current streak as far as not making a playoff appearance. So luckily, from what the report's saying, it is a dislocated toe. MRIs was done. There was no fracture, and just as a Jets fan, you got to breathe a sigh of relief because it's just we had the whole prima donna show last year with Aaron Rodgers and how great Aaron Rodgers was and how he was going to catapult this Jets to the promised land. And 4 games in, well, 4 plays in to the first year, we all seen what happened. And I don't want to continue what happened. It was a crap show towards his exit. So I'm relieved and a little bit disappointed because it just always seems when you're a Jets fan, this is just what you sign up for. You sign up for the misery. You sign up for the BS. You sign up for the disappointment after disappointment, but you still show up to the games wearing your green and white, loud and proud. So, um, hopefully, this is not an extensive injury. I'm not sure what the timetable usually is. It is not the big toe. And the reason why, not to get into a conversation about toes, but when you are a quarterback, the big toe definitely pays dividends as far as like pocket throwing and planting your feet and things of that nature. So, um, from what the reports that we got, um, is definitely a dislocated toe for Justin Fields. A side of release if you're a Jets fan, because if you look at the quarterback depth chart, you're pretty much got Justin Fields and you got Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor has been in the league for quite a long time. He's been quite the journeyman. And if the Jets are planning to take that next step as far as playoff supremacy, you're going to need your starting quarterback. So the reports does say that he is expected to be ready for week 1, which is a sigh of relief. And I can just only imagine how everybody in the organization felt when they first saw it initially, because you hear any player being carted off the field, it's usually a serious injury. But I'm glad to report that he did not suffer. He avoided a serious injury and he'll probably be out for the foreseeable future as far as training camp goes. I do not expect for him to play in any preseason games. As far as what happened today, I think it's in the best interest of the Jets to not put him in harm's way until he gets the actual reps. I do feel like preseason is important, even though nobody in the world watches it, because it gives you ready in preparations for these reps that you're going to take during the regular season. So the fact that he may miss that time to not be able to catapult that chemistry with his teammates and the offense in particular, that is kind of worrisome because, you know, there's definitely a buzz in Jet Country. There's definitely a buzz in Jet Country. Obviously, we got Aaron Glenn leading the way as a new head coach. Aaron Glenn has done tremendous work, most recently with the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions are arguably one of the best, if not the best, defensive teams around in football. So, you got that going, and essentially, you want this Jet roster to be healthy. So, I think the best bet, at least for the time being, just have Justin Fields not do any camp reps. If you do have to put him in preseason, I believe preseason is like what, 3 games now? I'm not sure. It's very difficult to watch preseason. I probably watch like the first drive, and then next year, they put in like the third stringers and stuff like that, and then it becomes sleep time for me. So yeah, but definitely a sigh of relief when it comes to Justin Fields and his injury, and unfortunate because there definitely was an excitement, with him coming back, especially with the Jets signing Garrett Wilson. Obviously, there's a chemistry already with Wilson and Fields, with them two having played back in Ohio State. Justin Fields signed a 2-year, $40 million deal in the offseason with the New York Jets. And for the time being, he's going to miss some significant time. So it's definitely unfortunate, but is also a sigh of relief that it's not anything broken. It's not an ACL. It's not knock on wood. It's not a Achilles or anything of that source. From where what I've read, as far as the sources and the reports, it is just a dislocated toe, and he sustained the injury. It says that he was stepped on during camp, and he will be evaluated. And right now they have him as day to day. So that's all we got right now. If we do come across more information regarding the Justin Fields injury, as far as this podcast, we'll definitely be more than happy to bring it to you as soon as possible. So again, not to be repetitive, but as a Jets fan, I'm just happy that it's not, because it's almost like as a Jet fan, you're numb to just disappointment and heartaches and playing Tony Braxton's "Unbreak My Heart" in the background. It's just it's been a rough time if you're a Jet fan, and Jet fans out there know what I'm talking about. It hasn't been the easiest of times being a Jet fan, but we still show up. We still wear our colors proud, and hopefully this current team, the way it's structured, will take that next step. I do believe that division in its entirety is going to be better. The Dolphins still have their situation to work out with, as far as their secondary goes, and if Tua Tagovailoa is going to be healthy. The Bills are always going to be the Bills are the top of the food chain right now, and with them, the only question is Josh Allen good enough to get Buffalo over the hump with Kansas City? Because it seems like every time they go against Patrick Mahomes, they just fall. So, and obviously New England, signing Stephon Diggs, giving quarterback Drake May another weapon. So I expect the Jets and the Patriots to be right there neck and neck as far as one of the most improved teams in the league. But obviously this all comes with health permitting. So um, definitely hope for the best for the New York Jets right now. The quarterback is down, and particularly speaking, we're probably going to see Tyrod Taylor get most of those first reps in camp. But again, it's easy to be discouraged now, but I'd rather have this happen now as opposed to a week before the season starts, during the season, where it could have been a longevity injury, and then the franchise and the roster goes into shambles once again, trying to shop for a quarterback in the middle of the season. So for the most part, it's unfortunate because you never want to see anybody get injured, but because the injury is not as severe as what we once thought, is kind of like is a good sign. Is a good sign. So we definitely wish Justin Fields a speedy recovery, because this is, in my opinion, a make or break year for him. I think it's fair to say that he was in a unfortunate circumstance during his time in Chicago. Bouncing around from coordinator to coordinator. It's not easy to pick up a coordinator's playbook, especially when the coordinators seem to change just like the seasons here. So definitely an unfortunate circumstances with him being in Chicago, and I think in Pittsburgh there was a glimpse of what he could possibly be. There was a glimpse of what we expected him to be when he came out of Ohio State. But obviously there was a quarterback battle between him and Russell Wilson as far as who's gonna get the starting nod. Essentially, the Steelers decided to go with Russell Wilson, and if you really look at Justin Fields' numbers, they were really decent. Were they box office like eye openers? Absolutely not. But it was good enough for teams to be like, you know what? If we put him in the right system, if he gets acquainted with the playbook, if he gets acquainted with the coordinator, you give him a new city, a new fresh start. This guy, it could be one of those. It could be a breakout year. I mean, Again, he's only 26 years old. So, the youth is still there, and that window as far as prime supremacy is still on the table there. So, and again, you put him around players that he's comfortable off the back. Again, there's the relationship between him and Garrett Wilson. There's also been reports with him and Brees Hall, the running back of the Jets, hanging out. So you like to see that vibe, and you like to see that chemistry with the offense come together, because ultimately the Jets season relies on those three players, in my opinion. Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, and Justin Fields. And this is obviously, we're not including the defense, because Sauce Gardner pretty much has everything down right there, and the Jets pretty much paid him what he's worth and just told him, hey, this is your secondary right now. This is all yours. So, I know there's been a lot of people criticizing him as far as his inability to tackle and things of that nature. Listen, it happens. I think it's sort of silly if you really look at the numbers essentially last year and say that Sauce Gardner had a down year. I think it's silly, but we're all entitled to our opinions, and that's fine here on this show. But again, to wrap it up for this Jets news, just very, you got to be relieved if you're a Jets fan. You definitely got to be relieved if you're a Jets fan, and hopefully he heals up soon. So with that, we're gonna turn into basketball, and I got a poll question for the week. As far as the certain moves that the Knicks have made, Knicks fans, speak to me. Is this the current roster that you're comfortable with going into a season where it's pretty much finals or bust, if you ask me? That's pretty much what it is. When you get that close and you could taste a championship, being a couple of games away from an NBA Finals appearance, you ultimately have to tell yourself, like, this is it. Again, they made two moves. I can never get this guy's name correctly. The center from Philadelphia, I think it's Abumayami or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm saying it incorrect. But with the short stint that he had in Philadelphia, he did pose good numbers, and I think you need that with this structure and how this core is with the Knicks. You need somebody that's going to provide you energy. You need somebody that's going to give you minutes that's going to count, because as we all seen, once the Knicks become pro dominant, where they become one dimensional, where defensive could just read their schemes and just be like, well, listen, I know where the ball's going. Is either going to go into Jalen Brunson's hand, or is either going to go into Karl Anthony Towns' hands. And when you become one-dimensional as an offense, you become very easy for defense to figure you out. So that move is definitely going to help the Knicks as far as their bench production, which was pretty much, let's just face it, it was garbage. It was pretty much garbage. The Nets bench was just horrendous. And the numbers between the season just got worse when they entered the playoffs, and Indiana essentially exposed that during that series. So, so you have him, and then you got Jordan Clarkson, which I think is going to probably be, as we sit now, is probably the most underrated move that's not being talked about right now as far as NBA free agency goes. This is a guy who has over 3,000 points off the bench. This is a guy who can be a walking bucket. I think the only knock on him is his shot selection. He can be a little erratic at times, but if you have a guy that can give you, 15, 16 points a game, and every now and then, obviously bearing any injuries, could fill in the starter's role if Brunson or Cat were to miss a game or two or whatnot. I think I think Mike Brown will be okay with sliding in Jordan Clarkson, obviously on a part-time basis when we're talking about starting position. But we got Miles McBride. The last time I heard, they're working on negotiations to try to bring Shaman back. And listen, those last two games, man, a lot of people don't talk about Landry Shaman, but this guy really balled those last two games. And we all have to ask the question. I know I've said this before on the show. If Tom Thibodeau would have gone to a 9 or 10 man rotation as opposed to a 7 or 8 man rotation, would it have been the same result? Me personally, I kind of feel like it will, but at least the Knicks would have been closer as far as closing the gap as far as what Indiana essentially did to them, and that was just kill them with their bench production and also the up tempo. The fast break points just overwhelmed the Knicks. But I think those two moves that they made for the Knicks was good. I'm kind of sad that they didn't really show interest in Marcus Smart. I feel like Marcus Smart. We don't talk about him enough because he's in Memphis and he was injured. He was injured most of last year, but he's still, in my opinion, he's still in his prime and he still has the capability of being an elite defender. And I think Knicks fans know that from his time uh, with the Boston Celtics. So he essentially got a buyout with the Washington Wizards, and he will be heading to Los Angeles to play for the Lakers. If I did have to make a suggestion for the Knicks to make one move, I would probably go point guard, even though they seem to be guard savvy. But Malcolm Brogdon is not a bad move to make. Malcolm Brogdon is a guy that he can ball, man. He can ball, and he gives the Knicks spacing. And again, the way the game is played today, spacing is so essential and so important. So I think the Knicks should look into a possible Brogdon signing and see where that goes from there. I did hear something, and it was just premature about Justin Holiday. I don't know how true that is. I think Portland will definitely keep that combination with Holiday and Anthony Simons together until Damian Lillard comes back. As we all know, Damian Lillard is expected to miss the upcoming season as he recovers from the torn Achilles. And again, I couldn't be happy about that. First of all, it was pretty awesome to get breaking news on the show, but to have a guy who's been through so much, who lays it out on the line every game, who's a walking bucket, to have to, to have him go back to where it all started in Portland, I think is just one of the greatest stories to have, and hopefully, he can finish his career strong, man. He's one of the good guys on and off the court. You see from his interviews how humble he is, how much of a family guy he is. So, when you see that, it's definitely admirable to see. So, I'm definitely rooting for him. Outside of pro New York sports, Damian Lillard, outside of Klay Thompson, because Klay Thompson is essentially my favorite player in the NBA, has been for a couple of years. But Damian Lillard is definitely one of my favorites to watch outside of that bucket. So, um, I definitely think I know there was talk about centers. I don't think centers is necessarily a weakness for the Knicks. I think the combination of Carl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson works very well. Whether Mike Brown has a trajectory of putting them in the lineup together remains to be seen. And we don't talk about Ariel Hawkporty. Ariel Hawkporty seemed like he just came out of nowhere. And when Mitchell Robinson was down for half of the season, and I believe there was a couple of games where Carl Anthony Towns was dealing with numerous injuries, Hawkporty had some pretty solid numbers. So, you know, you bring him back into the fold and you let him learn under the Mitchell Robinson wing and Carl Anthony Towns wing. I would like to think that we could be seeing a more of an elevation in Hawkporty's game. Obviously, that's still to be determined. But I mean, if you really look at the current market for centers, I don't know if there's anything quite available right now as far as centers go. And again, I don't see that being a issue. So I don't know. You guys reach out to me. Does the Knicks would the Knicks benefit from getting another center? I really believe that they need a scorer. You don't need a all-star caliber scorer. I don't know if there's anything in the market that the Knicks can get as far as them being tied up to certain contracts and them not having so much money as far as like salary moves that they can make. So I don't know if that's actually something that's realistic for the Knicks to go and get a top tier scorer to put aside Jalen Brunson. I think the way the Knicks team is structured right now, as far as scoring, this is pretty much what you're gonna have. Um, Mikal Bridges has to play better. Um, I think Knicks fans really expected that Brooklyn Mikal Bridges to be better, but I think what we have to realize is that the Knicks roster, as opposed to the Nets roster that Bridges was a part of, is so different. Aside from Cam Thomas and maybe Cam Johnson when he's healthy, Bridges was without a doubt their best player. Without a doubt, their best player. So there was a lot more on him and his shoulders as far as playmaking and scoring ability, where they needed that. With this current Knicks team, you pretty much have players that could score the ball and take the load off of Bridges, like a Jalen Brunson, like a Carl Anthony Towns, and even an OG Anunoby who can give you 20 points a game when he's right. But I think the fact that bothers Knicks fans is that we do expect that. We gave you 4 first round picks, with a few of them being unprotected picks at that, or 5 first round picks, 4 unprotected. So we definitely need to see Bridges perform and perform at a higher level. Do we expect to see Brooklyn Nets Bridges? I don't think so. But at this point, with him still being in his prime, with him still being the Iron Man of the NBA, again, Bridges has been in the league, I want to say 6, 7 years, and he hasn't missed the NBA. He hasn't missed an NBA game in his career, or nor did he did in college. So as far as health wise, he's been a godsend throughout his whole career, and hopefully he could take that next level as far as giving the Knicks a scoring bunch with the current unit that they have. But I do think that playmaking and just having another scorer to relieve Brunson when he has to sit down is probably the must that you have, because I think the bench has gotten better. Again, with those 2 moves, especially with the Jordan Clarkson move, the bench has gotten better as far as what to expect as far as the scoring punch coming off the bench. So I think if you look into a Malcolm Brogdon, I think that would be a nice pick for the Knicks right there as far as their second unit, where you could have a combination of Brogdon, Clarkston, Robinson, Hart, Hawk Porty. You got that's a pretty decent second unit. It's a pretty decent second unit. And again, there's going to be a lot of pressure riding in Mike Brown's first year with the New York Knicks, because again, this is a team that was just a few games away from an NBA Finals appearance, and the common New York fan, we don't want to hear about what you did for me back then. We wanted to see what you've done for me lately. So I think it is going to be quite the challenge for Mike Brown. But if anybody that could change a franchise around and get it back to winning supremacy is Mike Brown. He did it with Cleveland. Um, he obviously won a couple of championships as an assistant with the Warriors. He turned around that Sacramento Kings franchise more recently. So again, it's a proven winner on Mike Brown. But I don't think the Knicks are done for the time being as far as making certain roster moves. Again, it's easy to pass judgments and say, this is what it's going to look like. This is what we're going into in July. But you still got training camp. You still got a lot of free agent moves. Free agents been very slow this year. I'm not sure why. I think there are a lot of good players still on the market, but I think a lot of it's almost like a domino effect where NBA teams are just looking for certain players to have their stock probably lower for a team to negotiate with agents and stuff like that to try to get a deal done, to try to lure a top tier player or just a contributor to a team. So I think that's what we're seeing right now, because this is probably one of the slowest free agent summers that I've definitely covered and been a part of. So it's definitely it's weird, it's odd, is a little eerie, but I would expect come September when teams start ramping up and you have training camp around the corner and then preseason towards the middle of October where things will start to ramp up as far as roster moves being made. But again, um, I don't, as far as all that noise about the Knicks needing another center, I don't necessarily believe that is the case. I think they're pretty much solid, you know, especially if Hawk Porty could perform the way he did during that time that Mitchell Robinson was out. And again, we all know when Mitchell Robinson is um is right when he's healthy, he's one of the best rebounding big men in the league. So you put that combination of Robinson, whether Mike Brown elects to go with Towns and Robinson together, whether he elects to go with Josh Hart and have Mitchell Robinson come off the bench, I think it will ultimately play beneficiary to how the Knicks configure their roster. But I definitely think the number one move for the time being should be Malcolm Brogdon. He's still got some good basketball in him. I believe he still got some good basketball in him. So it'll be interesting to see what the Knicks do moving forward. Because again, once you're in that particular phase and that window, Jalen Brunson's going into his 30s. Carl Anthony Towns will be there too. So again, we know with these cornerstone franchise players, you want to be able to get something out of them during that small prime window because before we know it, Jalen Brunson is going to be into his fourth year, I believe, as a New York Knick. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that window, especially with the wear and tear that these players put in their body, that prime window I feel like it shrinks within time. Obviously, medicine is more upgraded than it was, say, in the Jordan era and stuff like that. You got all these fancy therapists and stuff like that, personal chefs and all this medicine and team doctors and whatnot that does a great job getting these players on the court and most importantly to stay on the court. But again, you know, you can't reverse wear and tear. You definitely can reverse wear and tear. So I think the time is now for the Knicks to make whatever moves they need to make necessary to get the job done and to be able to compete with the big dogs in the East like Indiana. Milwaukee is going to be. Listen, the East is going to be as open as it's been for the long time, especially with the Jason Tatum injury. I think it sort of opens up the Eastern Conference in its entirety. You know, Orlando with their moves that they made, they got better. So I expect Orlando to be there. Atlanta made some really, really, really dope moves. I think Atlanta was one of the. If we had to crown a winner or a loser as far as free agency and draft compensation, I think Atlanta will be at the top as far as winners, as far as what they did to add more, not only offensive presence, but more help for Trey Young. I mean, Trey Young is probably one of the most exciting players in the league right now. And again, you not to compare him to Jordan, but I feel like every great player needs to have their 1A, their Robin, and not to say that certain players like Towns and Jalen Brown are Robins, there's nothing wrong with Robin, okay? There's nothing wrong with Robin. I actually like Robin, but you need that perfect Batman and Robin combination together. And do I think the Knicks have it? Yes. But again, it takes more than two players to catapult the team to an NBA Finals appearance. If you look at what the Indiana Pacers did, they had over 10 players that was averaging 9 points a game, which is insane. May not seem like a lot, but essentially, if you look at those fast break numbers and the bench production, those points, even though it's 8 or 9 points, they were coming from different players. They were coming from Obi Toppin. They were coming from, Pascal Siakam. They were coming from Justin Turner. They were coming from TJ McConnell. They were coming from Benedict Mathurin. So, again, right now, I think the objective for not only the Knicks, but every team in the East is just to try to equally improve their team to try to be able to withstand a 7-game series with the Pacers. And again, the Pacers. Do I still think they're going to be an Eastern Conference threat, even with Tyrese Halliburton expected to miss the entire season? I don't know. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me because you have a great championship caliber coach there, and just the way that franchise is conducting things around there is just going to be a great move. But again, you got some really strong young up and coming teams that are coming. I mentioned a few of them in Orlando. I mentioned Atlanta, Detroit. I thought Detroit until they met up the Knicks. Even in that Knicks series, I thought Detroit was very, very impressive. They sort of gave me that bad boys Pistons vibes with their aggressive play and stuff like that. And Cade Cunningham is going to bloom into a superstar this coming year or the following year. Mark my words. I do think he is that damn good, and I do think that he is going to be a prime time player in this league for a long time. He's only 23 years old, so. Um, Look for Detroit to be coming. They also made some moves, and there's also been a rumor about them trying to work a deal with Cam Thomas, and I hope for the life of me that doesn't happen. I love my Cam Thomas. He's a restricted free agent, and basically, I had one person ask me about the difference between restricted and unrestricted. So I'm gonna take the time to answer that now. So basically, when you're a restricted free agent is kind of like you're partially a free agent, but the current team that the player's on, has their rights to that player. So let's say Detroit says, "Hey, you know what, Cam? 4 years, 80 million, right there." Essentially, that will be the offer sheet. Now, if Cam Thomas elects to sign, that's up to him and his representatives. However, the last word will ultimately come from that the team owners, which is the Brooklyn Nets. So any contract offer that Cam Thomas gets, Brooklyn has the right to match. That's how a restricted free agent goes. When you're an unrestricted free agent, it means that your contract is currently up with the team. You have no ties to that team. You could obviously express interest with the team that ultimately drafted you or that you spend significant time with as far as coming back and finishing the story with the team. But ultimately, it's pretty much you're living in that player's world where they're gonna continue to look around and find the best deal possible. If that means leaving their team after 7 years of service, by all means. So again, that's the difference between unrestricted and restricted free agents. So just want to put that out there and let you guys know that because I did have one or two people ask me about that in a previous podcast episode. So that is basically my personal opinions about what the Knicks should do. We're gonna move on to baseball and talk about how horrible the Yankees defense is. Um, I want to take a break here because I want to make sure I get my thoughts together because I really don't know what the hell I saw yesterday. I saw a little bit of the Yankee game. Um, I was coming. I was on the highway with my fiance, and we were just watching the game on my phone and just heard it on the radio, and it just sounded abysmal. And I really hope whoever's looking at this video right now, if we could CC or at Brian Cashman, let's do that and let's make it loud and proud because what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? I don't know if I don't like the phrase stuck in the 90s, but I just feel like his approach as far as free agency in the winter and just negotiating trades and stuff like that has been very dull and very out of play. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what's going on, but obviously offensively this team seems a bit better even with the loss of Juan Soto. You could argue if Cody Bellinger, if Bellinger didn't have that rough April, he's a conversation that you would have uh, on the All-Star team. But we're gonna leave it for calls right now. Hey, good afternoon. You with Sports Talk with Eddie.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
What do you think the Yankees could do to improve more games?
As far as winning,
Yep, as far as winning.
honestly, there's so many layers to what you can do as far as this Yankee team, as far as them winning. Again, before your call came through, their offense is not the issue. Their offense is not the issue. You know, you still got Aaron Judge, who's the greatest baseball player on the planet right now. Argue if you wish. Um, you still have Cody Bellinger. In my opinion, if he didn't have that bad April, would have made the All Star team. Stanton, when he starts to get those at bats in, he's just coming back from injury. We all seen what he can do from his performance in the playoffs last year. He was just simply dynamite that whole entire playoff run. So it has nothing to do with their offense. I think right now, because their defense is so crappy and the pitching has been elated and decimated by injuries, I think that's where the problem lies, and it's sort of ultimately putting pressure on the Yankees offense to produce runs. I mean, it was just a bad showing, and I think to answer your question, I just obviously you want them to be more consistent, but in order for the offense to be more consistent, you do need help from the other side, which is the pitching and defense. The Yankees committed 4 errors yesterday, and it was just horrible, horrible routine throws that you and me and my 6-year-old niece can make in their sleep. It was terrible baseball. It was embarrassing, to say the least, and I think the Yankees need to focus on pitching because I do believe the offense will come around. It always seems like every July and sometimes August we go through this funk where the Yankees just forget how to hit. You ever watch that? You ever watch the first Space Jam movie? You ever watch the
Yes,
first
I
Space Jam
have.
movie? You remember that part where the Monstars came and just stole the talent of certain players? That's exactly what's going on with this Yankee team. Is for whatever reason the Monstars came into Yankee Stadium and just stole the talent of these certain players. And I just I don't know. And it's more the talent on defense as opposed to offense because again they are in these games. It's not like they're getting killed, but when you commit four errors which produce into runs, that counts up to loss of games. So I know the big name is Eugenio Suarez from Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't know if that's going to make us better. Offensively, yes, it's a sexy move because he has 35 home runs. He's having the best year of his career. But I've seen players. I've been watching baseball since, not to give up my age, but I've been watching baseball since 1996. So I've seen a lot of good baseball. I've seen a lot of teams that have come from other teams during the middle of the season and have produced, and I've seen other players that have come and just stunk up the place. So I don't necessarily think that it's the offense that's his issue and that's preventing them from winning games. I think it has to do with the Yankees' lack of pitching depth and most importantly their defense. And I'll go into numbers with you to back up what I'm saying. So it's almost disgusting reading this stuff. Again, the Yankees committed 4 errors in yesterday's ball game. 7 errors in the 3-game series in Toronto. In 10 games against the Toronto Blue Jays this year, they've committed 10 errors. They have a win-loss record of 11-18 against the American League East. Now, listen, when the playoffs, if they're thinking about going to a deep run in the playoffs, you're gonna run into a Houston team. You're gonna run into a Detroit Tigers team, who, in my opinion, is the best team in the Major League.
Call is no longer being recorded.
Oh, that happened. Are you still on?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah. I'm sorry. I have no idea what happened. I think I don't know. It kind of sounded like my mom a little bit. It freaked me out. Anyway, yeah, but I just feel like they just need to get some pitching, man. Ultimately speaking, they just need to get some pitching, and they just need to get their defense together because what I saw last night was just disgusting. It was just really, really bad. Again, 4 errors. I don't remember the last time I watched a Yankee game and they had 4 errors. It must have been a couple of years to say the least. But if the Yankees improve on the defense, and again, whatever move they make during the trading deadline, it has to benefit the defense because that's where the weakness is at. It's defense and pitching. It's defense and pitching. So that's the best thing. That's the best bet I could to answer your question. Thank you for calling.
No problem.
All right.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. The Yankees are 11-18 in the AL East, and that's just it's just disgusting, man. I don't know what the hell Brian Cashman is doing. I'm sick and tired of seeing these reports about, oh, well, the Yankees are picking up steam to get Eugenio Suarez, or the Yankees are making aggressive moves. Just make the damn move. I just, for the life of me, I don't understand what's going on. The only thing, if I wouldn't have to defend Cashman, and he's making it harder every year for me to defend him. I've been defending him since '95. Is what perennial teams are asking back in return. Now, obviously, the blue chip and all future trades would probably that I would predict that teams are asking for is Spencer Jones. I'm not giving up Spencer Jones. You're gonna have to wow me with some sort of blockbuster move for me to be like, you know what? This guy is in the minor leagues. He's killing it. He has an OPS of over 1,000, which is on base. So yeah, this is just I don't know. But if I'm going to give up a Spencer Jones who has a OPS of over 1,000, he has 13 home runs in 19 games since being called up to AAA. He hit 3 home runs today. This man he's at least showing the glimpse. Again, it's easy to get caught up on what someone is doing at AAA, but his first 19 games, he's pretty much hitting a home run per day. So if you're Brian Cashman and you're getting these calls about Spencer Jones, you ultimately have to wow me with a trade. I don't know what that trade would essentially look like, but it has to be a very, very attractive trade. Very, very attractive trade. It's almost like, you got filet mignon right here, and then it's like, yeah, well, that looks good, but check out that ramen. That ramen is looking really, really good. I don't think anybody's gonna choose. I don't. I don't think anybody's gonna choose filet mignon over ramen. What about you, PJ? We're not doing that, right? Yeah. See, PJ said we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So I want to know what's the holdup. What is the holdup with these trades? And I'm thinking that it has to do with teams asking for what it will take to get Spencer Jones. They got a young stud in Lombard Jr. Lombard Jr. who, when he was in, I got to actually watch spring training this spring. This guy was just off the charts. He has the potential of being a box office. So if I'm the Yankees, unless I'm really like swept off my feet with any trades involving Lombard Jr. or Spencer Jones, I'm not having it. It's just not going to happen. It's not going down. It's just not going down. I think the Yankees will probably end up with a less attractive name than Eugenio Suarez, and I'll be okay with that. If they provide someone that can catch the ball and throw the ball first with ease, I'm down for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm even thinking about putting an application and take my chances to see what goes on. But just a very, very despicable performance by the Yankees. The way the team is structured right now, it doesn't look like this is not a World Series team. And I can't tell you how hard that was for me to just say that, but it's gonna take a lot of moves. And again, I think the first priority for Brian Cashman, you need about two or three starting pitchers. If you have if the playoffs ended today, I think the Yankees would probably get in as a wild card. And you need a good pitching combination. And again, Max Fried for the start of the year was a he was looking like a AL Cy Young candidate. Not that he's stinking out the place, but he has slowed down within the past three starts. He hasn't been as sharp as he's been in recent starts. Same thing with Carlos Rodon, but that's pretty much going to be your number one and two starters. Um, if a series were to get, if we're talking 7 game series here, we're talking maybe Warren for game three that you would give the ball to. You're probably gonna have to go with an opener at four. Well, it depends because Luis Hill, despite his bad start recently at Triple A, he's reported to be coming back in the fold. So if we can get that AL Rookie of the Year, Luis Hill, and you put him in that combination right in the middle between Freed and Rodon, and if Freed and Rodon could be Freed and Rodon for a change, then I like the Yankees' chances. But I just, again, with their defense and the inconsistency with the pitching, especially the bullpen, which has been really, really dreadful. There's just a lot of questions and a lot of concerns that I have for this Yankee team. I was actually speaking to a buddy of mine that that I play basketball with, and he's a big baseball guy, and he was telling me, wouldn't mind. He's a Met fan. I wouldn't mind a Mark Vientos, Jason Dominguez trade. And I was like, hmm, I don't know. I'm like in in cahoots with that because obviously it's easy to get all attractive and love Jones about Mark Vientos' season last year with the 27 home runs. This year, unfortunately, he hasn't had the best luck when it comes to health. So it's still a question mark whether he could repeat, whether he's that type of player. Because again, your first year, you get lucky, you get hot, whatever. The question that fans would have is, hey, can you run it back with that same year? And I think for the most part, because he's been unhealthy, that's kind of been on hold where we can't determine whether he's that type of player or whether he's capable of making a move like that. I do believe he's good. He's talented. I think the Mets right now are comfortable with Brett Beatty at third base. So I don't know how I feel about that trade. Because again, just like I said about the Knicks, you want depth. Depth is very important. So whenever Bellinger needs a rest, whenever Judge needs a rest, whenever Grisham needs a rest, it's nice to have someone like a Jason Dominguez that can come in and when he's right, can impact a game. Last night he was probably the only exciting thing to talk about other than Aaron Judge's home run as he broke a 0 for 18 slide with his laser beam home run yesterday. So again, I know Yankee fans are attracted about this Eugenio Suarez move. I get it. I get it. But that's just not the move right now. We can't get caught up with the traction of the offense. We can't get caught up in all of that because he's not really a good defender. So if we're talking as far as having somebody upgrade to position as far as an improved defense, I don't think Suarez is the answer. The last report that I checked is that the Yankees and the Seattle Mariners are pretty much neck and neck for his services. We'll see how that goes down within the couple of days and whatnot. But I think the Yankees, I hate to say, should think low or look elsewhere. But in this case, I think the way the lineup is structured, these people are going to hit. Trent Grisham has had a great season after not really playing much last year, and he shows you, hey, if you give me the playing time, I can help out. He's got 17 home runs this year. He hit a huge grand slam the other day against Atlanta. So, as far as being in the moment, as far as being productive, as far as being consistent, Trent Grisham has been that and then some alongside Aaron Judge. So, again, it's not about the offense or them scoring runs. Eventually, I think this offense is going to click and it's going to be one of those long stints where they're just going to go bonkers on everybody. At least I hope so. At least I hope so, especially against the American League East because 11 and 18 is crap. It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing. So let's see if we can get at Brian Cashman. Listen, man, make a move, and please make a good one. But I think the priority should be starting pitching. Make I've been hearing the Yankees being tied with Mitch Keller. Jalen Beeks is also a name that can help out their bullpen. The Yankees are in desperate need of bullpen productivity, especially with the injuries that they have suffered within the bullpen. Uh, I don't know if Emmanuel Clase is ideally thought of or realistic. I think he'll be a perfect fit for the Mets. You add that bridge to him, and then Edwin Diaz. That would be a great fit if you ask me. But I don't know. It's still to be determined whether Cleveland is going to sell at the deadline. But I think if they're going to sell, I think you look at a name like Stephen Kwan or Emmanuel Clase. If we're talking New York Mets, if we're talking New York Mets, again, this Yankee team. I'm telling. I yesterday I was just so pissed off. It was just really hard to watch. Really hard to watch that series. A very important series as Toronto is actually the team that we're looking up as far as the American League East standings. I believe we're 4 games back in the American League East, and ultimately, these are the teams that we have to beat. We have to beat the Boston's of the world. We have to beat the Baltimores. After this Philadelphia series, we got a 4 game set, a big 4 game set at the stadium against the Rays. So Cashman has to just take a rabbit out of his bag. He's got to stop hugging on these prospects and try to find the best deal possible. I get it. That's just the method of a general manager finding the best move possible. But this can't go on for long. This is just really really bad. If I wanted to go to Ringling Brothers, I'd go to the Barclays Center and have me a good old time. This is not this is not Yankees baseball. This is not what I grew up watching. I don't know what the hell I'm. Last night, in particular, I don't know what that was. I just don't know. It was again. I've been watching baseball since 1996. That's the year that Derek Jeter came up. I've never sat down and had time to watch a game and just see the foolish moves that this defense was doing. I've never seen it. I've never seen it outside of and I hate to bring it up, but I know somebody on this chat is gonna bring it up. Outside of this World Series game last year, and we all know what we're talking about, where they just blew a 5.5 run lead and forgot to play defense. This was probably just as bad. So I think you have to look at defense. Maybe a key Brian Hayes, maybe a Ryan McMahon if we're talking third base. Those are the names that I think the Yankee fans should watch out for. Let's sort of shy away from that source because again, it would be nice to have him because he's going to add more offense to what we already have. But sometimes too much of something could self-destruct. I mean, obviously last year it worked fine with Soto and Judge. That was exciting. That gave me Manny Ramirez, David Ortiz vibes. Seeing those two together, and I would have loved to see that for years to come. But unfortunately, that's not how it went. And I think Brian Cashman's number one priority has to be the pitching. It has to be the defense. I'm sick and tired of people telling me about the offense. There's nothing wrong with the offense. Obviously, they're having their little funk right now, but they have proven numerous times that they can score runs when they are right. When they are right. But I also feel like when a team feels like they have to produce runs and not get the support or the proper pitching, it sort of puts pressure on the offense. So ultimately, they have to feed off each other as far as the offense and the defense goes. So we'll see how that turns out. But I think Mitch Keller is a name for Yankee fans to watch. Jalen Beeks is also a name that could be watched. I know I said last week's episode, Sandy Alcantara is also a name to watch. I think that's going to be a race between the Yankees and Mets as far as his service goes. He's a former NL Cy Young. He's having a little rough year this year, but still a good pitcher that could possibly be productive and maybe just in the need of a fresh new start. But hopefully around this time next week, we'll have more answers to you guys as far as what the Yankees do. At this time, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Special shout out to David Greaves and PJ for always helping produce the best shows every week in and week out. No excuses, no nothing. Because it's sometimes I know it can be a little difficult dealing with my ass, but ultimately we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see what the upcoming week holds. All right. Thank you guys so much. Stay safe.